Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis, and today we're going to do another game discussion. We're going to talk about this game right here, Silent Hill Homecoming for the Xbox 360 and I believe the PS3 as well. And I have to admit that I am a huge fan of Silent Hill. Back in the PS1, well, really the PS2 days, because I didn't have a PS1. I remember going out and getting my PS2. And I think around the time that I got my PS2, because I got it like on the second shipment of launch, somewhere in that, I don't remember when Silent Hill 2 came out, but I remember being really excited for it. And I went out and bought that, and that was actually my first Silent Hill. I played Silent Hill 2 before I played Silent Hill 1, and just fell in love with it. And we just did episode 13 of another gaming podcast, and Silent Hill 2 was one of my top 10 games that I picked. So I really, really loved Silent Hill 2. Went back, played Silent Hill 1, loved it. Got Silent Hill 3 when it came out, loved it. Got The Room, Silent Hill 4, and I really liked it, but you could kind of see where the series was kind of not really, it wasn't getting bad, it was just kind of stalling. And after that, it was kind of a while. What was the actual... Well, it's right actually behind me. That's really good. This is going to be really a great video. Let's see. Of course, there's no date. 2004. There's a 4-year difference between Silent Hill 4 and Silent Hill 5 Homecoming. So it was kind of a long wait for the next Silent Hill game. And when this one came out, I didn't buy it right away because I read a lot of the reviews, and they were kind of mediocre. And I have all the Silent Hill games. I have Origin, I have Downpour, I have Shattered Memories. I haven't got Book of Memories yet, but I'm planning on getting it as soon as it gets a little bit cheaper. But I bought them when they got cheap used. So this has been sitting on my shelf for a while, and finally, let's see, it was Steven, the Laggy Gamer, Danny, Devil May Pie, and myself. We were all watching Silent Hill Revelations together and kind of just instant messaging back and forth while we were watching it. And the movie is absolutely dreadful, just horrible. Everything that Silent Hill is, that movie kind of removed it in a lot of ways. Like, even in the dark, when they're in dark segments in like the nightmare world, it's still bright as fuck and you can see everything. And that's not what Silent Hill is. But watching that movie made me want to go play another Silent Hill game. And I thought about throwing in Silent Hill 2 Restless Dreams, because I haven't played that version yet. But I decided to go with something new, and I'm actually really glad I did, because I really enjoyed Homecoming. I know it kind of got sort of, like I said, mediocre reviews. But if you're a fan of Silent Hill, you're really going to like this. So let's go ahead and get into it and talk about it a little bit. The storyline is actually really good, but it's a slight bit predictable, especially as you're moving towards the end of the game. If you pay attention to sort of the storyline and different things, you're going to understand what's going on before you're going to get there before the game gets there, essentially. But that's not a bad thing, because it actually makes you feel like you're a really smart person, like you figured it out. Yes. But the storyline involves, it's a story of family, and it involves an older brother named Alex returning from the Iraq War. He was a soldier, he got shot, and they shipped him back. And he comes back to his hometown of Shepherd's Glen, which is not too far from the town of Silent Hill. And things have just gone crazy. His mother is insane. His brother is missing. His father is nowhere to be seen. And Alex sets out to find his younger brother, Joshua. And where it goes from there is really kind of, like I said, kind of an exciting story. It gets a lot more into the religious cult, the Order. And this, I should say, this game takes a lot of inspiration from the movie. You're going to see miners in the mining outfits from the movie. Pyramid Head shows up, of course, for no real reason, because he's not supposed to be in this, because he without giving it a spoiler, he's actually tied to the protagonist of Silent Hill 2 in a way. So his appearance in this is just kind of a whatever. He's become the mascot of the series now. So I'm assuming he's going to be in Downpour, and I'm assuming he's going to be in Origins, just because they throw him in everything now. But yeah, a lot of stuff is cribbed from the, not cribbed, but taken from the movie. So if you like sort of the style of the movie, like how it shifts from foggy Silent Hill to the nightmare Silent Hill, that happens in the game in real time around you. So it's really kind of cool. You'll find the church from the movie in there, with the horns on it and everything, and you actually get to go inside of it. So you can really tell that this was made around the time of the movie because they tied it in quite a bit. But yeah, the storyline I found to be really good, really disturbing in places, the way you want Silent Hill to be. A little bit hokey in places, but that's okay because Silent Hill is kind of a hokey thing. But yeah, I really just enjoyed my time with the storyline and liked to see where it went. And I did get the happy ending. Now there are, I think, 5 different endings, including the UFO ending. Yes, the UFO ending makes a comeback in this game. And I don't know if I'll get to it right away, but I had such a good time with this. I wouldn't mind going... Excuse me, I have a cold, and I'm trying to get over it. But I wouldn't mind going back and playing this one, maybe not right away, but somewhere down the line, playing this on the hard mode, and trying to get some of those other endings, because on the normal... We'll talk about this a little bit more in the gameplay, but on the normal setting, it's not that hard of a game. And there's a lot of choices you have to make in this that really affects the different outcomes, and you get a different achievement for each choice you make. So I might go back and play this again. But let's go ahead and get into the gameplay. Tried and true Silent Hill, except they tried to make this game a bit more of an action game, because Alex is an army soldier. He knows how to handle himself in situations, so they figured, why not make this more of a combat-oriented game, and more of a melee combat, I should say. You have guns, but the ammo is so sparse, you will find yourself only using them in, like, emergency situations. But the thing of it is the game has a nice sort of rock, paper, scissors with the enemies. Like, there's the feral dogs, where you need to, you would think you want to use your most powerful weapon, but you don't. You want to actually use your knife, because it's quicker, and you can attack them quicker, and they won't get a counterattack in. Whereas, once you get the crowbar in this game, that's going to be your main weapon for the most of the game. You'll think you want to use the fire axe, but that thing is so slow that enemies will actually start comboing you. Yes, comboing you while you're swinging that thing. So you'll stick with that crowbar, you'll find. But it's a lot more action-oriented. The problem is the enemies are built for that. The feral dogs and the lurkers are very quick. There's an enemy in there called... well, I can't remember what it is. It's either a schism, because there's 2 enemies I'm thinking of. There's one that has, like, the bladed head, and he swings his head around and tries to hit you with it. Either that's the schism, or it's the big lumbering enemy that has... it's got a man's body, big and lumbering, and it has a woman's body tied to its back. But I think that is the schism. And I think the one with the blade is like this, it's like Say-I-am, or I don't know how to say it, but it's S-A-I-M. But those things, you'll want to use a quick weapon with those, because they will just fucking murder you. The nurses make a comeback, and they're very quick, so, you know, sometimes you will get outnumbered, especially there's a part early in the game with 5 nurses, and you're like, oh crap, what do I do? Because the enemies are so built for this melee combat, and your character is still kind of this lumbering beast. Like, I don't know how much it takes to swing a steel pipe, but it's like, ugh, ugh, ugh. And it's just like, if you don't time your combos correctly, they'll just, you know, beat you to the punch. And so sometimes it feels like you're at a real disadvantage with the combat, especially if you're using one of those heavier weapons. Luckily, they put in a dodge mechanic, which is so helpful. And some of the boss battles actually rely on you to use the dodge mechanic. So make sure early in the game you get that dodge mechanic down, because it does have kind of a delay to it. And, you know, enemies will start their swing up, and you really have to watch their frames of animation to know when is the perfect time to hit that dodge. But it'll save your skin in a lot of ways if you get that down. What else about the gameplay that's different in this game? Oh, the big thing that really pissed me off. The controls. For the most part, the controls are very good and very spot on. There is a bit of a delay, but usually like with these Japanese action games, it doesn't feel like the controls are always that responsive. But in survival horror, that's kind of the point. To put you at a disadvantage, so you have to kind of think, do I really want to fight these enemies, or can I try to run from them? The problem with the controls is, actually, I don't want to say, I think Double Helix is an American company. I think this is like the first Silent Hill that was made by an American company, but I could be wrong on that. Double Helix did another game. Oh, they did Front Mission Evolved. I don't know if they're an American company or not. But anyway, the thing with the controls is you cannot invert the camera. So if you're like me, and we talked about this a bit on the podcast, I like to have my camera controls inverted. It goes back to the old days of playing like flight games and Star Fox, where you pull back on the control stick to make your ship go up like you would in an airplane. And for some reason that is carried over to first-person shooters and any game with a camera. I like to pull back on the stick to make the camera go up, because it feels like I'm pulling on the back of the camera, and push down to make the camera go down. Can't do that. So that really fucked me in the early parts of the games. I was fighting the camera more than anything. The weird thing is, you can invert the aim. So you can't invert the camera, but you can invert the aim when you use your firearms. Makes absolutely no sense. If I can invert the aim, I should be able to invert the camera. And that is a big gripe with me. Luckily, I got, you know, by about, I don't know, a third of the way through the game, I got used to it. Now it's going to be interesting when I go back to a game where I can invert, and we'll see if I, you know, completely lose my mind. But in terms of gameplay, yeah, if you've played a Silent Hill, you know what to expect from this. It's just a bit more action-oriented than what we're used to. And I think that kind of goes along with, like the Resident Evil series, because the camera seems to be more behind Alex's shoulders than in previous games where it was more removed from the characters. So, yeah, it was probably made that way in response to the way Resident Evil was going. I wish they wouldn't have done that, though, because some of the most effective parts of Silent Hill is just when you're wandering around these abandoned buildings, and it's just the sound effects. You know, the combat doesn't make it scary. It's everything that's happening around you that does. Let's see what else. The graphics. The graphics are kind of a mixed bag. This is a 2008 game. There are times, like, the environments look gorgeous. The town of Silent Hill and Shepherd's Glen, and all the rust and decay, it just looks amazing. The character models are a bit weird. They're a bit plasticky and a little dolly. Sometimes they look really great. Like, the facial animations of Alex looks really great. The facial animations... Sorry. The facial animations of other characters look a bit not as good. Like, especially the female characters. Okay, hold on. I gotta get a drink. Jeez. Sorry about that. The facial animations of the female characters, and just the faces of the female characters, for some reason in Silent Hill has always looked weird to me. I don't know if it's just like... and really, it's in a lot of video games. Like, the male characters... I don't know if it's because male features are more angular, and it's easier to make that in sort of a video game sense, but they always look pretty normal. And the female characters with a more of a rounded, softer look always looks really just fake and not good. So the female characters' facial animations in this look pretty, not bad, but just kind of, you know, just not as good as the Alex's facial animations. What else? The textures, sometimes the textures look really good, sometimes they look really bad. But for, you know, a 2008 game, it still looks really good. And like I said, the environments, that is where you get all your atmosphere, and just, you know, to see all these environments and the decay of the towns and things like that, I really, really like that. I'm not going to make it through this video. Finally, the audio. And what can you say? Silent Hill consistently has some of the best soundtracks out there. And it's still Akira, how do you say it? Yamadka? Akira Yamadka doing the music. And Mary Elizabeth, I can't remember her last name, singing the song for the game. And she actually sings 4 tracks on the soundtrack. I really want to hunt down all of the Silent Hill soundtracks that Akira Yamaoka did, because like I have Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3, and I absolutely love them. I have a burnt copy of Silent Hill 4 somewhere around here, and the soundtrack to this was just as good. I really love the music that these guys do. Unfortunately, Silent Hill Downpour, I believe, is the first game in the series to not have Akira's soundtrack to go along with it, the sound design. I think he left Konami and is no longer associated with the Silent Hill series. So I guess we'll see what happens when I finally get to Downpour, if I like the music in that or not. The audio design of the game is just dripping with atmosphere. You know, there's nothing crazier than sitting in your living room and it's pitch black and you're running down a darkened corridor and you just hear all these whispers and like moans and, you know, things like that. It's just really, really creepy, and that's one of the reasons why I like Silent Hill more than I like Resident Evil. We could probably make the argument that Resident Evil are technically better games, but I think Silent Hill is a better experience. So yeah, that's really kind of it on Silent Hill Homecoming. I would say this is kind of a underappreciated game, especially if you're a fan of the series. Because, you know, reading the reviews back in the day, I thought this was actually going to be kind of terrible, and I found myself really enjoying this. Yes, the combat is clunky, but Silent Hill has always had clunky combat. But the storyline is really good and really kind of disturbing, and dark and bloody, just the way we want Silent Hill to be. Infinitely better than Silent Hill Revelations 3D, I will put it that way, but that is such a low bar to jump over that... yeah. But if you find this out there, I would definitely recommend picking it up. It's cheap, although it seems to be like everyone's kind of getting in that 360 collecting phase now, because when you go to like GameStops and stuff like that, some of these older cheap games are getting hard to find just out in the wild. So you might have to go online to look for it, or your GameStop might have 12 copies. Who knows? But definitely worth a look, and if you're a fan of the series, I would definitely say give it a shot. If you're a fan of survival horror, definitely give it a shot. It's actually a really good game. So anyway, guys, that is it for Silent Hill 4, or not Silent Hill 4, Silent Hill Homecoming. Technically, this is Silent Hill 5. I'm going to go rest my throat. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to start something else tonight, or maybe just watch some movies. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.